Yes, sir. What's your name?
My
Really
name's
done.
David, and
David.
my question was probably more towards Mike Adams. He mentioned the recourse that students can take or that student bodies can take when dealing with either biases or animosities from universities as groups. But what about students? Luckily, I was an engineering major, so all of my answers were concrete numbers, so there was nothing that a professor can hold a bias against. But let's say, for like a soft science or for other liberal majors, to where they're stating
Right.
an opinion that the professor may not hold, and there is biases, and there could even be grading biases. What kind
Yes.
of recourse or rubrics or tools does a student have, or resources does a student have to deal with those kinds of situations?
The most difficult possible question there, because dealing with in-class indoctrination that actually spills over into grade discrimination is the most difficult thing to handle on a college campus. Also the most difficult really to prove. It's most likely to pop up in the social sciences and the humanities. Fortunately, there's actually a tool out there that we didn't have until a few years ago that helps us to actually avoid that. There's a difference between a leftist and a liberal. A liberal professor, liberalism presupposes a level of toleration for other points of view. Leftist professors, of course, just want to move people to the left, and they're really not open-minded at all. One of the ways that we're able to discern between them, actually there's two ways. One is through reputation. The other is actually through Rate My Professors. We're actually able to go online and go there and identify the really difficult professors. And you can try to avoid them. The problem is sometimes you can't avoid a professor like that who's heavy-handed and really spills over and crosses the line from indoctrination into discrimination. So what do? What you have to do is to find like-minded individuals to take the class en masse. A few years ago, a few students who were libertarians involved in the Libertarian Party on my campus had to take this one particular professor who was really over the top, a very radical feminist and actually unfair. They made sure that the three of them took the class together. And in the class where the average grade point average was probably 3.5 because it was an easy discipline, these students with very high GPAs, all three of them got Ds. They were then able to go to the department chair, all three of them, with a copy of their transcript in one hand and show the scores on their papers in that particular class and point out to him that they were all of the same political persuasion. The department chair overturned and changed the grades. And so you need to try and avoid them when possible. If you can't, take the classes en masse. But it also tells you, to be honest, there are certain academic disciplines you need to avoid. And I often say, if at all possible, parents, don't allow your children to take sociology. It sounds harsh, but you really don't have much to gain in certain disciplines, and try to avoid them for the more serious disciplines. I hope that helps.
No, that does. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
One more. Yes, sir. What's your name?
My name's Wade.
Hey, Wade.
Frank, I'm a big fan. Been following you a long time. I'm a believer in God. And my question, I'm having a hard time kind of framing it, but I'll put it this way. Like, I have friends who, they don't believe in God because they think that because like God says he has a plan, that he knows everything that's already going to happen, how things are going to end, because he's the creator of time. So he created its beginning and ultimately its end. So how is it that our free will is relevant at all if he knows where everything's going already?
Yeah, excellent question.
Like they put it like, they say, if there is a God, then he's a cruel God because he already knows who's going to heaven and who's going to hell.
All right.
So I just don't know how to really
excellent
answer
question.
that. Okay.
Unfortunately, we're not predestined to talk about that here today.
Okay. I had a feeling,
I just got
knew
a
that
word,
would be.
and I'm sorry, God says no. So I don't have the free will to talk. We could talk about this for semesters. Let me give you a really short answer to it.
Okay.
That may or may not help. Let's suppose you like football, NFL football, so you get NFL direct ticket, direct TV, so you could also watch. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Okay. Anyway.
And cold case Christianity.
And cold case Christianity's on there too. So in any event, let's suppose one Sunday you're away from your house and you can't watch the games, but you have a DVR, so you record all the games. And on your way home that night, you're intending to watch one of the games, but your friend texts you the scores, and you go, Man, I didn't want to know the scores. I wanted to go there and just watch it like it was live. But you go there and you elect to watch one of the games, right? You already know how it's going to turn out. But does that mean the players on the field don't have free will? Your knowledge of the outcome does not affect the free will of the participants, does it? Similarly, God creates this universe. He elects this universe, and He elects what's going to happen in the universe, but He doesn't overpower the free choices of the people in the universe. Since He's outside of time, He knew that when He created this universe, we'd be here talking right now. But He's not the primary cause beyond you and I talking right now. We have free will to talk about this, right?
Yeah.
So God doesn't take away our free will. He knows what we're going to do, but He still allows us to freely do it. Just like when you watch a football game, you know what's going to happen, but the players are still doing it freely. Now, why did God create some people who He knew would go to hell, right? That's another question. It's one of the questions in the app, by the way, but here's the short answer. God knew when He created this universe, Richard Dawkins would believe, or wouldn't believe, but Jack Hibbs would believe. But Richard Dawkins and Jack Hibbs both have the free will, and they're freely doing what they want to do. And if Richard Dawkins wasn't in this world, this would be a different world. And if it weren't for atheists, I wouldn't be here. I'm sure there's atheists in my bloodline somewhere. Probably there's atheists in all of our bloodlines, right? God chooses to create this world knowing how it's going to turn out, but whatever happens in it is just because people have the free will to pursue Him or reject Him. Now, you might say, well, why didn't God create a world where everybody believed? While that's logically possible, it might not be actually achievable. Because say after God creates the fifth person, the sixth person sins or doesn't or rejects God. Is God then only obligated to create a world of 5 people? No. Why would He be obligated to stop there? He wants to share His love with a lot more creatures. So He continues to create. The people that seek Him after He seeks them and accept the free gift are saved. Those that continue to reject God, and we'll talk about this tomorrow a little bit if you come back to the service. Those that continually reject God are doing it of their own free will, and God will not force them into heaven against their will.
Let me just throw another quick way of interpreting it. You've got friends who are holding an atheist view, and Frank talked about this a little bit in the last talk. It seems to me there's one of 2 possibilities. We either have a world that's dictated and governed by physics, chemistry, space, time, and matter, because that's all naturalism provides. That's the only thing I can use to bake this cake we call the universe. Physics, chemistry, space, time, and matter. Or we've got a divine creator God who has created space, time, and matter. So the underguiding thing that guides us is either physics or God. Of these 2 possibilities, which of these could ever remotely give you freedom? Now, in one case, it's physics, which means you have no freedom because you're just another domino caused by a prior physical event which caused this domino to occur. Everything under physicalism is predetermined. Everything is determined. What I'm about to say was determined from the beginning of the universe because it's simply a matter of physical neurons firing in my physical brain caused by prior physical processes also out of my control. So under physics, I can't even have any kind of freedom. Under theism, though, the creator of the universe might, for some reason, release what He could clearly control to allow you to make free choices so that genuine love exists in the universe. Without that kind of freedom, you can't love. That has to be done. You have to have the freedom to hate in order to truly love. To choose the thing that's good, you have to have the freedom to choose the thing that's bad. So under these 2 worldviews, one cannot give you any personal freedom, no matter what you do, because physics are inflexibly fixed to physical elements. And in the other worldview, you've got a God who might release this for some greater purpose. Love, because God is love. So under those 2 worldviews, I understand we're not quite sure what the relationship between freedom and God's sovereignty, but I do know what the relationship is between freedom and physics. There is no relationship. Only one gives you a possibility of freedom. It's theism.